Okay, this video will be a solution to the homework on parallel lines cut by transversal and angle relationships. So we're going to start off with this first one. It's gone over in class. So again, one thing we want to keep in mind is that if you were on the inside somewhere here, somewhere there, is that if you were to squish the two parallel lines together, that would get the ink and black would get squished. So that means you're on the inside of the parallel lines, what we call interior angles. So this angle, that angle, and that angle are all interior angles. Whereas if you squish the parallel lines together, if they don't squish an angle, that means you're exterior. So like this angle, angle 2, this angle, angle 1, those are on the exterior, outside of the parallel lines, or lines that look like they're parallel. And then alternate means that you're just on the opposite side, so the alternate side. But you do have to be careful in that it doesn't mean it's next to it, adjacent or consecutive, what we might call it. Consecutive being like kind of right next to each other on the same side, but they're actually across or on alternate sides. So because 1 and 2 are on the exterior and they're alternating sides, we call that alternate exterior angles. Angle 3 and angle 4 and number 2, they are both on the inside, so they're definitely interior, and they're on the same side. We call that same side interior or consecutive interior angles. There's a couple names for it. I believe down here they call it consecutive interior angles. So consecutive interior angles. And you can just match up the picture with the rules down there. 5 and 6, if I kind of like make my 4 square game right here and one right here, whatever position you kind of want to call this one, this position and this position, you could call it maybe top left and top left, or you could call it top right and top right. Either way, they are the same. And if you are in the same position, you are corresponding. So these are corresponding angles. And then 7 and 8, again, you squish the parallel lines, lines that could be potentially parallel. They obviously are not. But 7 and 8 would be alternate interior angles. So they're on the inside because they get squished, and because they're on opposite sides, those are alternate interior angles. Okay. Moving on. Identify the relationship between each of the angles. We crossed off 3 and 8, number 4. 1 and 7. So here's angle 1, here's angle 7. They're on the exterior and they're on alternate. So this is alternate exterior. Angle 4 and angle 6. Angle 4, angle 6, again on the inside of the parallel lines, or lines that look like they could be parallel, so they would get squished. So they're interior and they're on opposite sides or alternate sides, so those are alternate interior angles. 8 and 7, here's angle 8, here's angle 7. These are what's called a linear pair. So it's a pair of angles that end up making a straight line or a half circle, which is 180 degrees. So this is a linear pair. They're not corresponding because they're not in the same position. It's the same 4 square game. They're not vertical because they're not a vertical pair. They're not across from each other like that, or like 5 and 7 are. It's just the linear pair. And then 3 and 5, here's 3, here's 5, again, alternate interior. And then angle 2 and angle 4, here's angle 2, angle 4. You have to be careful. There's nothing that says that these two angles are going to add up to 180. However, they are vertical angles, they are going to be equal. So when they're across from each other, when you have two lines cross, you get a pair of vertical angles here and a pair of vertical angles here. So these two are equal to each other, and these two are equal to each other. So angle 2 and 4 are equal or congruent by vertical angles. Number 6, identify all the pairs. Some of us only did some of the pairs. We want to do all the pairs. So corresponding angles. So if I do my four square game, and let's just say I call this top right and top right. So then this would be bottom right, bottom left, bottom right, bottom left, top left. So top right, so angle 2 and angle 4 go together. Top left, angle 3 and angle 1, so 1 and 3, 8 and 6, or 6 and 8, and then 5 and 7. So those are the pairs. Alternate interior angles, again on the inside. So 2 and 6, and 3 and 7. So on the inside and then alternating sides. So 2 and 6, and then 3 and 7. Consecutive interior angles, again on the inside and on the same side. In this case, they're supplementary, so angle 2 and angle 3, and then angle 6 and angle 7. Alternate exterior, that's going to be outside, the exterior, outside of the two potentially parallel lines, and an alternating side, so that's 4 and 8, and then 1 and 5. Vertical angles, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs. So 1 and, erase some of these lines. 1 and 7 vertical angles, 2 and 8, 3 and 5, and then 4 and 6. Linear pairs, again, linear pairs are the ones that make a half circle. So each kind of game of foursquare has one, see if I can do it in a different color. There's one vertical pair. Here's another vertical pair. Here's another vertical pair. And the last vertical pair. So there's 4 vertical pairs. So 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, and 3 and 6. That's kind of 1 foursquare games, vertical linear pairs. The other ones would be then on this side, you've got 1 and 2, 2 and 7, 7 and 8, and 1 and 8. Moving on, we just kind of wanted to make sure that we knew that, again, corresponding angles are congruent. That means equal. Alternate interior angles are congruent. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. Consecutive interior angles is this is the one that's different. If you're consecutive in interior, then you are supplementary. Again, this is a key thing, that if two parallel lines, so you have to have parallel lines cut by transversal, then these statements are true. All right, moving on to the back. If angle 2 is 113, what is angle 6? Well, these are corresponding angles. They're both in, say, the top right position. So angle 6 is equal to angle 2, so that's going to be equal to 113 by corresponding. Number 2, if angle 4 is 100, what is 6? So 4 is 100. By alternate interior, angle 6 will be 100. If angle 1 is 84. What is angle 3? Angle 3, these are vertical angles, so they are congruent, they're the same. So that would be also 84 degrees by vertical. If angle 7 is 75, what is angle 1? So here's angle 7, here's angle 1, they're alternate exterior. These are congruent, so angle 1 is also 75 degrees. 3 and 4. 3 and 4 is going to be a linear pair, so they should add up to 180 degrees because they make a half circle. So 180 degrees minus angle 1, which is 81, is going to leave you with 99 degrees for angle 4. 6 and 3 are consecutive interior. So they add up to 180 degrees. So 180 minus 111, because we already know this is 111, that would give you 69 degrees for angle 3. Okay. If P is parallel to Q and M is measure of angle 1 is equal to 75 degrees, find the measures of all the other angles. So there's a couple ways we can do this, but we can maybe notice that we have a half circle here. So 75 plus something needs to get you to 180, so 8 would be 105. Maybe we then could do another half circle, or we know that by vertical angles, these are going to be equal. And then we could say by alternate interior angles, those are going to be the same. So these are going to be 105 and 75. And maybe the last one we'll do corresponding. So bottom right and bottom right. And bottom left and bottom left. So these are going to be 75, 75, 75, 75. And these are all 105. Okay. There's the pattern of the odd ones are all 75, even ones are all 105. We skip this. All right. Looking at these two angles, we're told that these two lines are parallel. Are they going to be congruent or supplementary? So you want to remember that things are going to be supplementary are going to be your linear pairs or the consecutive interior. Otherwise, they're going to be congruent and equal to each other. So DHG, so here's DHG, so that's this angle, and HGA, HGA. These are alternate interior, so they're going to be congruent. Angle FHC, that's this one, and DHG, DHG. These are vertical angles, so they're going to be congruent. BGE is right here, and FHC, FHC is right there. These are on the exterior, because again, you squish these two lines together. These angles are on the outside, they don't get squished, and they're on alternate sides, so alternate exterior angles, and those are congruent. They're equal. EGA and GHC. So EGA, that's this one, and GHC. GHC, that's this one. So they are both, if you kind of make a 4-square game here and a 4-square game here, they're both in the bottom left, so those are going to be congruent. And that's by corresponding angles. And then last couple, AGH, so AGH, and EGA, EGA. These are a linear pair, so they're going to be supplementary. Again, they create a half circle, 180 degrees. And then last one here, DHG. So DHG and BGH, BGH. BGH, so this one. Those are consecutive interior, so those are going to be supplementary. These last two problems, it just asks you to solve for x. It doesn't say come up with the angle measure, it just wants you to solve for x. So this is where we want to, again, use our kind of angle relationships. If I say this angle is 17x minus 4, this angle is 12 plus 15x, what can I do? Well, if I make my two games a foursquare, I can see they're both in the top right-hand corner, so these are corresponding angles. So because they're corresponding, that means things in the same position are going to be equal to each other. So this angle, which is 17x minus 4, is going to be equal to 12 plus 15x. I can solve this equation. I'll subtract 15x from both sides, leaving you with 2x minus 4 equals 12. Add 4 to both sides. 2x equals 16. Divide by 2. And you get x equals 8. So if you plug that back in, you could actually get the angle measure. So you do 17 times 8 minus 4, and then 12 plus 15 times 8. These two angles are consecutive interior, so I know that they should add up to 180. So by consecutive interior, those angles are supplementary, so they add up to 180. So that first one is x plus 67. The second one is x plus 127, and I know that should equal 180 degrees. So those two angles added up. Same side of the equal sign, so we're going to combine like terms. Again, that 127 and 180 are on opposite sides, so we can't combine those yet. X and x is going to get you 2x. 67 and 127 gets you 194 and 180. Subtract 194 from both sides. You get 2x equals negative 14. And divide by 2. You get x equals negative 7. Now this seems kind of weird to have negative 7 for an answer, but that's not saying the angle is negative 7. It just says x is negative 7. If you were to actually go back and plug that in, negative 7 plus 67, you'd find that this angle is 60 degrees. Likewise, you'd find that negative 7 and 127, this angle is 120 degrees, which gets you your 180. And that is the solutions for this homework.